Remember, this entire manga and every manga on this channel is hand-drawn by myself, and now you too can learn exactly how to make your own viral Dragon Ball mangas at www.makemanga.com, where you can learn directly from me. My mangas have got me on TV, on newspapers, and even earned me over $60,000 a month on Patreon alone. And now, you can click the link in the description and pinned comment of this video and do it yourself. You only need to see the website to see just how many thousands of you are taking this opportunity right now. And don't forget also, the next video to this Ultra Vegito series has already been made and is live now on my Patreon right now for over 4,500 of you incredible fans to watch after this. Again, links are in the pinned comment and description. Enjoy. So our story continues with a view of Son Gohan, shirtless and focusing stoically ahead in his fighting stance, ready to challenge the all-new freshly transformed Demon King Miro, who now coated in a mysterious powerful energy will begin making a step forward, instantly destroying the ground beneath him as he does so, with the planet itself unable to even contain his presence. And once we would get a full view of Miro, his truly bulked up presence would be clear for all to see, utterly covered in vascularity, as his deathly stare on his face would seem almost too small for the rest of his body, slowly but surely walking straight forward towards Gohan. But the doting grandfather Bardock, watching from above, would not remain silent, calling to his grandson, Gohan, this guy has just gotten way stronger. Conveniently, right after I promised not to step in. Are you sure you're going to be okay? If you can turn into a Super Saiyan God or something like that, now would be a good time to show it. But Gohan, now bearing a smirk, would seem completely unbothered, simply replying, Super Saiyan God? That's more my dad's or Vegeta's style. I always said I'd find my own path to power. You don't need to worry about a thing, Gramps. I've been in worse situations before. But in the distance, there would be one figure who would utterly be gobsmacked with what he'd been seeing in the last hour, as standing borderline trembling in awe, the Super Saiyan 2 Kalo would be stood, wide eyes and open-mouthed, just muttering, Commander Bardock! His grandson! This Earthling! They're actual monsters! Where do they get this kind of power from? I need it! But just as Kalo would wonder, like two bullets fired in a standoff, the two powerful warriors in the distance would launch immediately towards each other. Near instantly face first with each other, as both Gohan and Miro would meet in the middle, roaring with intensity. And on first meeting, their first trade would be Gohan swiping his fist harshly to collide with a rising kick of the Demon King, the impact creating an impressively loud thud as Gohan's own face and gritting teeth would show just how serious he would be taking things, as he would briefly think, right, that seemed even. I should be able to do this. I should... But just as a hint of confidence would trickle into Gohan, Miro would be quick to show the Saiyan this transformation was not just for show. Immediately grabbing Gohan's skull like a baseball in one vicious grip before... With a violently explosive crash, Miro would ragdoll the Saiyan by his literal face and smash him accordingly straight down into the ground. Seems I'll be back fighting the blindfolded one sooner than I thought. You weak worms should really learn to know your place. As the Demon King, feeling his ungodly power now dwarf his opponent, would instantly now begin to grin wildly. And that place is below my feet! As after raising his foot straight up to add extra salt to the wound, bringing it down like a rocket-powered meteor, Miro's foot would crush Gohan's chest brutally, as a visible crack of his bones would ring through the air. Before continuing to treat the young warrior like a mere trash bag, kicking his already injured body next far off into the distance. Ultimately cutting the journey short once again, as Gohan would slam his back against a nearby mountainous wall. Immediately leaving the Saiyan now gasping for air as his injuries and scratches appear to overcome him. A line of blood now running with speed from his forehead down across his eye. This guy, he may look like him, but he's a lot tougher than Bojack, that's for sure. But Gohan, still with a fire lit within him, would grit his teeth, thinking of what else he could do to flip the tables on Miro. But as the Demon King would watch Gohan remove himself from the makeshift mold in the mountain, he would call out, "Come on already! It's annoying enough your skull doesn't explode like it did with the others. Can you at least know when to give up? I'm in need of no warm-up." Now it's you underestimating me, Miro. Word of advice: don't become what you most hate. As Gohan, now beginning to get triggered, would stare straight forward, as raising his right arm without looking at it, within his palm, a concentration of energy would begin to build. Immediately blasting out a beam of energy, but strangely, not towards the demon, but instead right to his side. And the Demon King, noticing this, would be unflinching when turning his head, trying to figure out what this strange creature in front of him would even be planning, as he would mutter, "When I said you weren't different, you didn't have to act strange to prove me wrong, you know." But suddenly, all would be revealed when Gohan, using that one moment to distract Miro, would instantly appear to slam a kick right onto the side of the demon's face, shuddering him immediately as his eyes would go blank momentarily from losing consciousness. one mortal! But it would only be seconds later that Gohan, still mid-air, would realize not only did such an unexpected hard attack not move Miro away at all, but he would be back conscious, looking down with vitriol too, his body pumped and unfortunately ready to get immediate revenge. As with rage behind him, the Demon King would backhand Gohan ferociously, spinning his body, practically dismembering his spine in the process, as his still staying in place legs would be unable to even keep up with the speed of his fast turning torso. Miro! Leaving Gohan to fly through the air, himself now dipping in and out of consciousness, struggling to re-straighten his body until... Even as he would land on the ground on all fours, right above, like a fly that would not get away, Demon King Miro would be stood right over him, fist clenched, ready to continue his reign of violence. He's getting faster and faster! Leaving Gohan to stare up in fear, contemplating already what would come next. Just die already! As just as expected on cue, the demon would then crash his fist straight onto the appearing to have crumbled up Saiyan's body. That was close! That is, until in the distance, we would see that in fact, Gohan had escaped just in the nick of time. His body in almost a sprinter's stance, however, until... That's it! I'm not letting you get away with any more! This ends here! As nearly instantaneously, like a racehorse, Gohan would shoot off the line straight at Miro once again. But unfortunately, even this would not get him far. It was on the edge of his foot, down on his ankle, a monstrously large green arm would grab him from out of nowhere. You! How did? Leaving Gohan nothing short of stunned, as when turning his gaze behind, a sight nobody wanted to see would be right at his backside. Miro! How is he this fast? As in a complete shock to Gohan, the Demon King, as if stuck to the Saiyan's very soul, would be right next to him in a flash, his far bulkier body clearly making no difference to his speed, but in fact, now several times faster. But such observations would be made meaningless in the face of Miro's strength, as yet again, Gohan would be forced to endure a violent slam right onto the Earth's surface, creating a giant explosion in the process, as his screams would ring through the universe. And in the aftermath, like a fallen bowling ball, Gohan would just be seen laying face first in a crater made of his own body weight. As Miro, looking down, now seemingly having had his fun, would just comment,
That body of yours, how it could withstand the damage of a demon king? No, a soon-to-be demon emperor. Maybe your soul is worth mentioning to Lord Lucif also.
Before Miro, now grabbing Gohan's head by the hair roughly off the ground, would then present him to the sky like a dead prize hunt. Gohan's deathly corpse would just hang, as Miro, looking to Bardock, would then say,
Blindfolded Earthling, as promised, your kin has been defeated. Any last words before I slaughter him before your eyes? Or do you perhaps want to finally step back into the arena? No!
But Gohan, ever defiant, would immediately react to such a call-out, struggling briefly to pull his hair away from Miro's grip, mumbling,
It's not over yet!
Until, with an incredible display of flexibility, Gohan would force the demon's hand, swiping his leg immediately up like an axe kick, but instead of bringing it down, would go even further beyond and smash it right into Miro's none the wiser face.
He still didn't budge!
But even Gohan on escape would realize once more how futile all his attacks would be at this point. Opting to quickly then jump back to gain some much needed distance. Bardock, meanwhile though, having assessed the entire situation, would think to himself,
Things aren't looking good. Not good at all. Am I really going to let Kakarot's kid die here?
But with Kalo, the naive warrior would think differently, whispering,
Gohan, you're incredible. Nothing can stop you!
As back on the battlefield, standing meters apart, Demon King Miro and Ultimate Gohan would just stare into each other's souls, each anticipating what the other's next action would be.
Come on, Gohan! You got this! Finish it!
But the silence would be broken when the overly enthusiastic Kalo would just yell out to encourage his new friend. But Bardock, getting annoyed with his subordinate's lack of vision, would just let out,
Cut it out, Kalo! How much have you been slacking on your training after all? Look closely. Gohan, he's not ready for this guy at all.
As when we would get back to Gohan, indeed the wisdom of Bardock would shine through, as the young hybrid Saiyan would clearly be seen low on energy, huffing and puffing away from exhaustion, his eyes even verging on closing from his lack of sustenance. But it wouldn't be long before the Demon King would end the brief break in battle, arriving closer, before with a disgruntled look and his arms folded, Miro would say, Look at you. Such promise you had at the beginning, but now even I can sense your energy dwindling. Mortal, if only you had listened, perhaps you could have escaped to die another day.
before with a stone-cold stare, Miro would finally proclaim, "No matter, you may live forever instead, as a part of Lord Lucif's great joining of the realms. Feel honored." Before, almost as if he had just said his final goodbyes, Miro would then lift his arms together, before bringing them close and instantly generating a small ball of energy that before long would begin to grow and shine brightly. Eventually becoming a clear source of intense power, as the Demon King in tandem would roar, as an aura would explode from his pores just as he would do so, triggering Gohan's natural senses as he would think, "I don't like the look of that. Looks like hand to hand is off the table now. This guy, he's looking to finish things." So as the winds of Miro's power-up would continue to wade and splash against the young Saiyan, Gohan in response would begin bringing his own arms together towards his right side. As resorting to his father's signature technique within Gohan's palms, the brightly lit shining ball of Kamehameha energy would begin to generate until... Giving it their all, both Miro and Gohan would unleash their final attacks. 2 beams, 1 planet, 1 very familiar scenario, with only one victor in the end. And in a flash, the 2 beams would make the collision. From afar, looking like a giant ball being punctured by an arrow, with it at first looking all even on both sides, more or less. Come on! I've got to have more in me! But when we would delve deeper on Gohan's expression, a totally different story would be told. As with clear pain and pressure of the situation bearing down on him, Gohan would look already at the end of his tether. Was this really a smart move, mortal? I'm surprised you even had enough energy to try to fight back! All the while, with the Demon King, the conclusion would be the complete opposite, with Miro clearly enjoying every second of the energy clash. And for good reason, as when we would get a bird's eye view within the humongous crater now being made on Earth, Gohan's Kamehameha would simply already be a fraction of the size it was earlier, with Miro's spirit bomb-like attack completely eradicating it. And as the view would get further out, over time, his advantage on Miro's side would only creep further and further to Gohan. Eventually to the point, the young Saiyan would more or less be surrounded by Miro's increasingly overtaking energy ball, with Gohan's Kamehameha now just a stump of its former self now. No! And with the outcome near inevitable, Gohan, even with his body full of veins, would not even be able to maintain keeping both eyes open, slowly reaching his limit, his voice softening as he would mutter, Damn it! I really lost it! I really let everyone down! Piccolo was right. I should have always kept training! Gohan! Hang in there! We're coming! Commander, let's go!
But interrupting the forlorn thoughts of Gohan, Kalo would immediately recognize the Saiyan's impending doom and jump to action, calling for both him and Bardock to step in.
No, Kalo!
But from behind, the hardened Elder Saiyan would shut him down immediately. As staring forward, emotionlessly, with his arms folded, Bardock would continue.
This is his battle. I already promised him that I wouldn't step in, and that's exactly what I'll do. You can't be serious!
But such a heartless response from Bardock would immediately leave Kalo stunned, as he would mutter,
Commander! That's your grandson! Your blood!
But not moving an inch, the legendary Saiyan, Bardock would just interrupt.
Remember what I said, Kalo. A Saiyan's word is his bond. Besides, Gohan requested this. At this point, he'd rather die than be saved like a child. He may be from Earth, but he's a proud warrior Saiyan nonetheless. If that's what being a Saiyan is, then I don't want to be one!
But enraged, unable to accept his superior's words, Kalo would suddenly find himself full of energy once again, his Super Saiyan 2 aura exploding outwards, along with seams of electricity. As shocked, Bardock behind would just whisper,
Kalo! What are you? Kalo!
Leaving Kalo to immediately blast off towards the losing Gohan, while Bardock behind would just futilely scream out his name to stop him.
Gohan!
And as Kalo would approach within seconds, his admiration for Gohan saving him earlier would begin to show, his face scowling as he moves faster than he ever has before, thinking,
Saiyan from Earth or not, Saiyan pride or not, I'm not letting you save me just for me to watch you die! I'm ending this for all of us!
As finally, once stopped high in the air, Kalo would then grab tightly onto his wrist and become surrounded by a wild lightning-like aura, with his energy visibly building unstably within his palm. But as he would reach completion of his attack, as he would look to Gohan, a smile would creep on his face, and somberly he would say, I'm nowhere near you guys in terms of power, but this is all I got. I hope it does something for you, kid. Believe in yourself. As instantly, just like that, the adrenaline-filled Super Saiyan 2 would then finally launch his most powerful attack yet, firing straight down like a heat-seeking missile from the heavens towards a none the wiser, smiling Miro, getting closer and closer, unnoticed before. Finally, the Demon King would realize what was right next to him.
You!
leaving Miro with no time to do a thing, as his whole face would get lost in the light until, in a surprisingly seismic explosion, the Demon King would be struck perfectly, leaving a huge explosion in its wake. Momentarily being noticed by Gohan, who internally probably couldn't help but draw similarities to a certain situation from the past. Ha ha! I got him! Direct hit! Now's your chance, Gohan! Do it! Causing Kalo to immediately let out a premature yell of excitement, raising his fist, expecting Gohan to have finally the chance to win this once and for all. But when he would peer in front, no change would be made. Miro's attack would continue to harshly push back against Gohan's, while the demon himself would just be coated in a dark cloud of smoke, courtesy of Kalo. And once a peek of a view would be seen on Miro's face, his expression would be cold until... Suddenly, a devilish grin would appear, marking the apparent fact Kalo's attack did absolutely nothing. You there! You're going to regret that! Completely shell-shocking the young Saiyan in the process, as with wide eyes and his body suddenly feeling an intense pressure as he would begin to tremble, all Kalo would be able to mutter in his petrification would be... There's no way! I gave that everything! But as Miro would slowly turn his head towards the terrified warrior, his only last word would be... Die! And just like that, on calling out of his signature phrase, a bloody explosion would pop straight within the chest of the Saiyan, seemingly right near his heart. And as things would become dark for Kalo, as he would stare down at his now mortal wound, all he would think about would be his fellow lost friends, whispering finally, Lettuce, Turney, looks like I'll be joining you soon. Kalo! Immediately resulting in a heart-wrenching scene of both Gohan and Bardock screaming out the Saiyan's name, hoping to save him from going into the light. But immediately returning to base, things would not look good for Kalo, as his body would then begin to descend to the ground. But as his body would pick up speed falling, Bardock would be there to launch towards him, gritting his teeth thinking, Don't die on me, kid! Before eventually softly catching the fallen warrior safely within his arms, just letting out, I've got you now, Kalo! Stay with us! Kalo! What have you done to him? But back with Gohan, just the thought of someone dying on his watch right before his eyes, while trying to ironically save him, would prove all too much. As instantly, bringing back a primal snapping of his mental state,
his anger would disappear, and for a brief moment, all Gohan would feel is a fierce cold in his heart as he enters a state of true nothingness. A state that as suddenly as it arrived, like a chemical reaction, would ignite into pure fury. His roar reaching the higher realms themselves as Gohan's pupils would vanish immediately. In this moment, Gohan had lost himself. Gohan had become Beast and was about to go even further beyond. And as Gohan's body would seize up and tense up, not only would his hair begin flashing white, his eyes too would go a blood red, while a darkness seeps over his whites. From behind, even more wild changes would occur, his hair bursting out in growth far longer than any previously seen form, while his own skin would begin to become more furry in texture also. Eventually reaching the final moments of his transformation, his whole appearance being lost now in a gigantic aura that encircles him completely. All the while, his Kamehameha would still push back against Miro's beam.
I'll make you pay for that!
As finally, once fully transformed, beyond Beast Gohan would finally appear. A form fueled not only by the training he had done with Piccolo, but fueled further by his natural innate potential to react to the harm of his friends and family. As once more, Gohan would live up to his name as the Saiyan that could be stronger than all, jumping his power level to a truly unfathomable state, just as he did all those years ago. Now, you die! And just like that, returning the favor to Miro in his own words, breaking the stalemate at his whim, beyond Beast Gohan would then finally unleash his new power onto the demon. Blasting out so violently now, Miro's own ball of energy would more or less be destroyed instantly in its wake, as it rushes through like a speeding train. What? And truly, there wouldn't even be a moment for Miro to realize just how outclassed he had now become, as within an instant, only the faintest details of the Demon King's stunned face would now be seen, as it would be completely lost in Gohan's power. And before long, with no sign of just how large and overpowering Gohan's blast would be, even in his giant bulked up size, Miro's entire body would be caught within the Kamehameha, lifted off the ground as he begins to disintegrate and be destroyed in real time until... Lord Lucid! With his body completely collapsing in on itself, mutating into a deathly creature. Finally, Demon King Miro would be no more, never to ever achieve his goal of becoming an emperor. And in the aftermath, as Gohan's Kamehameha would leave him, his shaking bruised hand would be all that's left. And from above, a giant crater, with a road of destruction trailing, reaching far off. And in the middle, just one lone victor, with the newly transformed Gohan just stood, breathing heavily from all his previous damage, as his crimson eyes would even start to dim. But just before his eyelids would begin to close and his arms would lower, Gohan, with a final smile, would mutter, "I did it. I still have it in me." Before in a flash, Gohan would return to base and then immediately fall straight onto his back. And in silence, he would remain, breathing calmly again finally. Earth's hero would be back and stronger than ever. And continuing the good news, watching from afar, a still alive Kalo would just whisper, "I knew it! I knew you could do it, kid! Unreal!" But elsewhere, in a far more regal setting, the God Killer himself would detect something unusual. A strange spike in power, maybe. As immediately looking up, Vegito would think to himself, "That energy signature! It couldn't be! Sensing it all the way over here! Gohan! Was that you?" Arousing suspicion from Yamoshi, who would then question, "What is it? Sense danger? You're the Emperor here, so you shouldn't be." "Don't worry." But Vegito nonchalantly, eager to not explain himself, would then brashly just walk past the surprised third, telling him, "Just hurry up and come with me to the damn throne room. That's what you've been waiting for, right? In here, I can see it." And so, into a dark room, the God Killer would then enter, with Yamoshi just behind, like a lapdog forced to come with. Walking slowly past the stump of a royal-looking seat, just like in the previous sector, Vegito would then take his seat on the throne of Sector 9, and remarkably unenthused would let out, "Right! Portal to Sector 8! Open up, will you?" And just like that, on his command, a black portal to the unknown would then generate right in front of him. As both Yamoshi and Vegito would step in front of it, Yamoshi would comment, "This time, let's try and make our entrance a little more calmer, please." As both would then quickly jump through, and what we would see is just pure pitch blackness. Eventually landing on the other side, on a bed of white snow, with curiously footprints in front. As for a moment, the two would look at their extremely harsh snowy environment. "It's freezing!" Before, of course, the typically annoyed fused Saiyan, shuddering in the cold, would let out, "Man, I could really use those damn coats Bulma made for fighting Broly again!" But as the Demon Slayer would complain, behind him, what looks like a very familiar foot would slowly encroach closer. But just who could it be this time? But that was it for today's video, guys. If you made it this far, leave me a hashtag Sector8 in the comments down below and let me know just who this mysterious three-toed figure could be. Or just head over to my Patreon right now where you can see the full next video, fully voice acted, soundtracked and edited for you to enjoy with over 4,500 plus other fans, as well as getting access to 250 plus other fan mangas too. It's the deal of the century.